I was going to ask you as well. One thing I'm really interested to hear about. Could you, to your best knowledge, let us know what the best sets, or sorry, the best decks were of all time, or your favorite decks, and the most broken deck of all time? That's one for a little clickbait title, the most broken deck of all time. And I want to also hear you mention about the Lugia EX, right? Because I hear that was a very, very strong deck from like 2006, I believe.
BLS was a very, very strong deck. Yeah, Blastoise, Steelix, Lugia, very,
Come
very strong
on.
archetype.
Nice.
Yeah. It had a combination of crazy energy acceleration that allowed Lugia to use, it's got that really weird attack cost with a bunch of different energy costs.
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
Lugia
sick.
can actually fulfill those attacks in the
Yep.
Blastoise, Lugia, Steelix deck.
That's sick.
Possibly the strongest deck of all time was actually the very first base set.
Was it Chansey or Mewtwo?
No.
Clefairy
It was Hitmonchan and Electabuzz. It was actually a really, really boring deck because essentially draw engines back then were so poor that these Pokemon were just basics that were slightly bigger than all the other basics and hit faster than all the other basics. And just because they created some incredibly broken cards in the very first base set that have basically never since been printed because they would just stopped the game working, essentially. So the fact that you could attach one energy and attack beat everyone else because you had all these other crazy trainer effects that were just like not healthy for the game at all.
So but what would they do against the modern deck?
Oh, they would be terrible, obviously.
Yeah, awful,
So 10 damage isn't the same as the damage you do these days, but in its time, that was probably the strongest deck and regarded as pretty much the only deck you could play. It was called Haymaker. That was the name of the archetype.
I bought a collection recently off my neighbor, and they ran a Pokemon club, weekly Pokemon, trading card tournament, etc. So when I bought them, they had decks with all the little names drawn in, so it was cool. We had like Blastoise and stuff, but obviously back then there was a very limited number of decks you probably could make a deck of every holo in a set, and it'd be decent. Maybe not as good as the broken ones.
Charizard was.
That was my question.
Was
Charizard good?
He was playable.
Okay.
Mean, people would play him because they wanted to play him, but. Like realistically, he probably wasn't winning events.
Yeah.
Some other like historically strong decks.
Charizard's good in the VGC as well. That's the crazy part. Like the Charizard Gigantamax is really good, which is annoying, but you see it everywhere. But yeah.
Luxchomp is probably one of the strongest decks. So it was Luxray GL level X from Rising Rivals and Garchomp C level X from Supreme Victors.
That card as a collector is hard to grade, right, and collect the Luxray level X.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is hard to collect because so many people wanted them to play with, realistically.
And that was a big thing back in the day, right? We hear a lot about the playability of a card affecting the pop, which is a thing because now everyone's a collector, right? But back then, not many people were collecting, and then especially no one was grading. So if someone collected it, they'd just shove it in their band no matter what it looked like. Whereas now, people are looking for, oh man, where's this Luxray level X? And all the other players are there. Well, it's in my deck, mate. It's mashed up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and that's the case for my ones. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it is unreal how much you know, man.
That was some of the SP. That was some of the SP package. So we were talking about the battle style stuff. The Luxray and the Garchomp were an SP archetype, and SP stayed strong for years. Gardevoir Gallade was also one of the strongest archetypes. Gardevoir is like a fan favorite for a lot of players.
Really,
because it basically just let you steal supporter effects from your opponent the entire game, whilst also locking them out of the game. So you can draw like twice as many cards as them, whilst also locking them, which was like ridiculous.
That's what I enjoy about the TCG. You have two styles, right? You have like the big decks that just a lot of HP, like ridiculous attacks, and you just hit hard. But then you also have these other cards. And in Sword and Shield, I know Obstagoon, right? That just blocks basic Pokemon from attacking. Yeah, I mean, I went to a pre-release event and I used that card and just beat like a Snorlax, like VMAX, whatever, just because they couldn't attack me at all. So I like that. I like that it's not all about the. I mean, yes, it's about the meta decks, right? But there are still certain decks you can build. There are certain strategies you can do that are fun, and can answer to the meta at least a little bit. I think what we definitely need to do, by the way, we definitely need to find yourself, Joe, and another coach, and we'll randomize it, but one of you has got to coach me and the other one's got to coach either Tom or Connor all together, and then we got to battle it out and see who can win. I would destroy you guys.
You wouldn't even stand a chance, mate.
We did a little event just like that where I was coaching a VGC player. And all TCG guys were teaching VGC players how to play the TCG, and that was just like 2 weeks ago. It was called the Union Cup.
Okay,
that was really fun.
Where can they find that? Where can people find that?
So it was all on individuals' channels, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's on the actual VGC and TCG players' Twitch channels.
Nice.
But it was called the Union Cup, run by Pedro Torres, who's like a very high-profile player and streams as well.
Nice.
Just for fun, really. And we're hoping to do the reverse. So I'm going to learn how to play VGC from a VGC coach.
Well, I'm definitely going to tune into that. I'm excited for that one.
It should be a lot of fun. I mean, the only exposure really I have to VGC is when I'm backstage at tournaments and I'm watching that, because I've just been talking about the TCG the whole time, so I want to break from that kind of thing. So
I do miss them so much, the tournaments. Like, I start like, it's so annoying. I literally started coming back to tournaments like
I know.
I went to one in where did I go?
You went to Chase Games in Cov, right?
That was the one. Yes. Chase Games. Yeah, I went there. Shout out to them. They're great guys. They've got a store as well. Go and check them out. They sell things at great prices as well.
That's like the closest thing to my local.
Oh, is it? Were you there then?
Not that day. Actually,
not that day.
No.
That was
maxed out my points.
Yeah, that was VGC anyway, right? I don't think even TCG was there that day.
Possibly not. I can't remember. I think.
Bro, you maxed out your points. I've still not got a single. I still hadn't got a single point, man. I was fuming. You know what? I was so close to top quitting Malmo. I was really actually close, much closer than the video suggested. And there were certain battles where I actually, after the fact, went and like researched some of the players, and I played against some good players, and I was like 1 or 2 decisions away from beating them. And like when I was chatting to my coaches and stuff on my friends, and they were like, yeah, you could have won that game. I was like,
yeah, I actually top 16 that tournament.
Nice.
The TCG side, and I misplayed on stream to get myself out of top 8 when I had game in hand. That was fun. But then I went and commentated top 8 instead.
Fair enough. Must hurt a little bit, but yeah, no, I'm excited. I really enjoyed it. I mean, even on my, I always wanted to make content like that, and I did. The first one did really well, and then the second one now has done really well. Views wise, and it's still on to this day on my channel. It's done more views than kind of like the PSA stuff, and then the Logan Paul stuff in its context. There's no sidebar in the title for that. It was just me playing tournaments. It did really well, and I would have loved to have done that more this year, mainly to highlight I really wanted to highlight to maybe collectors or people who are just fans of me that this game is really fun. TCG or VGC, like let's get more people involved.
Worlds is a great opportunity if it ever happens in London, right?
Yeah, Worlds. So so for those know, Worlds, the World Championship of Pokemon was in London this year. Obviously, Sword and Shields is a UK themed game, so it was all looking to be amazing for us, right? I mean, it's just round the corner from me, so I was thinking I don't have to get a flight to Malmo, I don't have to exchange flights, I just go there. But it got cancelled this year, and who knows this year? I mean, I don't think any event's looking likely this year. Yeah,
it's not looking good.
No. and the sad part about that is obviously like, okay, they push it back 1 year, but then say Diamond and Pearl remakes do happen next year, or whatever the next game is going to be, will then they go, will they just say, right, London's scrap now, we have to go to somewhere else? And we might have missed our only ever chance to have it in London.
I'd be so upset. It's pretty, it's my only chance to commentate a Worlds, which is like a dream, right? So I was gutted when I heard about it.
Yeah, I wish you the best for that, and it was so exciting, man. Even just meeting. I mean, I didn't speak to you there, but I'm sure we would have spoke at some sort of event after that. Met a few people there. It was going to be great. And
not many people, like you said, your video did well, but not many people do vlogging to the sort of quality that you do for those sorts of videos. So it gives you a much better insight than a lot of the other people who have done vlogs for it. And there is like a lack of education in that area. And some people just simply don't know that these events happen in the first place. So
yeah, I mean, we saw it with the collection. Like,
that's great.
Yeah, the hobby in general, like collectors, like we were in our own little. I don't use the word bubble here to talk about the market. I mean, we were in our own little world, right? With collectors, we always knew that Charizard was worth a lot of money, but we didn't. We just must have forgot that. If other people start getting into this, it will go crazy. We kind of thought the ceiling was already like $30,000 for a PSA 10 Charizard, but now look. So I think it's the same with the TCG. It's not necessarily that it's a bad. The TCG and VGC in the same breath. It's not necessarily that the competitive side is bad or boring or not interesting. It's like people just don't know about it. So all we got to do is promote it more. Whether people like it or not, just get the word out there, and people will start playing. And otherwise, you can have graded gem ruining it for everyone by just making everyone grade cards instead of playing.
Sorry, guys.